Welcome to the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel. Today I'm joined by FPL Heisenberg to preview Game Week 4. Wes, first of all, we're going to have a look back at Game Week 3 and your team before getting into your transfer targets. Another green arrow though, things are looking decent.
Yeah, it was a weird one because I felt like I'd had a pretty poor week. Some things went against me, some I felt frustrated. And then I checked my rank at the end of the game week or near the end of the game week. And I was surprised to see a green arrow. So yeah, I guess you take it when it's a green arrow, but still a little bit of frustrations here and there.
Yeah, I guess that's fair enough. A pretty middle of the road score, it seems, amongst the community. I mean, a lot of people got around the 50 to 55 mark. But sees you increase 500,000 places. Talk me through your team. What went well? What were you less happy with?
Yeah, I think Foden obviously getting sick and that news didn't break until obviously way past the deadline was frustrating because Foden was, yes, there's almost always a risk when you bring in City players. However, this was the one time where there was very minimal risk of Foden actually getting rested or rotated. So to miss out on, Foden only played like the last 5 minutes or something, got a lucky assist. So at least that sort of a little bit of good luck back in my favour there. But yeah, I would have liked him to start that one. Sheffield United obviously was really good fixtures to target. City losing the clean sheet in the last minute, but I guess that meant Foden came on and got his assist, so that's sort of evens itself out.
That's true.
Bruno did well. I took out Rashford for Foden, fully knowing the risks of that good fixture for Forest, but I wanted Foden over the longer term, so I took that risk. Didn't work out points wise, but yeah, I'm not going to bemoan bad luck there. I always knew there was a possibility Rashford going back to that left-hand side and scoring well. So yeah, it is what it is there. Watkins ticking over with an assist, which is, again, a little bit frustrating. He got a hat-trick in the European game against Hibs. Obviously, Hibs are a far weaker opposition than anyone in the Prem. But still, I was hoping that was good for confidence, and Villa seem to be scoring plenty of goals every game, and Watkins just isn't quite getting involved in the goals. But his XG was really good last game.
Yeah.
Burnley keeper Trafford made a couple of really good saves, especially one in the second half. And Watkins, he had two shots. I think they were both inside the 6-yard box. So if he keeps getting into those positions, he is going to score goals. And at least he is. What I want is when a striker gets an assist, it's really good for if they do get that goal, they're pretty much guaranteed the 3 bonus.
Yeah.
Whereas just say a single goal, you might get the bonus, you might not. But yeah, a goal plus an assist is such a big. So yeah, if he'd have just added a goal on, it's like a 7-point goal essentially.
Yeah.
If he could have got one in any of these 3 games, but hasn't quite happened. Think I'll hold against Liverpool away with no Van Dijk and Liverpool just looking fairly ropey defensively. So yeah, I think I'll hold. Then it's Palace at home for Watkins. But yeah, we'll get into my sort of future plans.
Yeah, let's get into it now because Watkins is somebody that people like me have sold. But yeah. I feel very fortunate, to be fair, just looking at the numbers, as you said, and just the chances that he had in that last game. Burnley, not the best defence. I think you've actually got pretty unlucky there, although he has a little return. Yeah. It could, as you said, easily have been a haul. Let's have a look now at your team for the upcoming game week, and we can chat about transfers and what you're going to do with certain players and what your thinking is. Okay, mate, so looking at your team for game week 4, it looks actually pretty strong. Stronger than a lot of other teams I'm seeing, because I think of having Ruben Dias in there. A lot of managers still have Saliba, other players that don't have as strong a fixture as Fulham at home for the Man City defence. Looks really good. So talk to me. How many transfers have you got? You got 1.9 million in the bank. It's a lot of money. What are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, just a 1 free transfer after making 2 last week to bring in Foden and Diaz. And in terms of initial thoughts, it's a tough one this week. Martinelli to one off Sterling or Maddison, which seems to be a fairly popular move in the community as well this week. But yeah, that's something I'm looking at. Martinelli's a tricky one because some games he'll be quite wide, not very involved in this sort of shots, and I don't know. And then, the next week, Arteta can play sort of multiple different sort of styles or systems or whatever that Martinelli then does become involved. So, take Man United at home might look like a tough fixture, but United are pretty poor defensively at the minute and they've got injuries there as well. So it's a case of taking out Martinelli could burn me. But I still think regardless of that, bringing in the likes of Maddison or Sterling is a better move anyway. So yeah, that's something I'm looking at. But yeah, again, a bit like with Rashford last week, I was in no rush to get rid of Rashford. It was more a desire to bring in Foden for his 5 strong fixtures, which made me make that switch. And it would be the same sort of story this week. I'm not taking up Martinelli for one of those who thinking Martinelli will blank the next 4 games. It's a case of thinking the player I'll bring in will score better in that sort of time period. So yeah, that's where I'm looking at the minute. Something like a Watkins to, again, Watkins, I'm on the fence about. I don't mind holding him but I would easily, if I was on a wild card, for example, Watkins would be Jackson.
Okay.
Um,
So not necessarily a transfer that you have to make, but you would prefer to have Jackson, is what you're
I
saying there.
would prefer to have Jackson.
Okay.
It gets you about a million, maybe 0.9 in the bank, doesn't it? It
Yeah.
gets you a better fixture run. I'm liking the look of Jackson, but for me, do I want to do it for a -4? So yeah, it's very different if I was on a wild card rather than right now. Sometimes you have to cope with your team not being absolutely perfect. You can't necessarily have everyone you want for that game. For example, this a bit of a tangent, but for this game week coming up, I would like to have Gusto for Forest at home, but with Reece James back potentially in game week 5. For me, I won't be making that transfer now. It's one of those where I'm just going to have to forego short-term points because he's likely to lose his place in 1 or 2 game weeks' time, I'd imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. Martinelli, I think, is such a tough sell. The fixtures aren't even that bad. That's the thing. If you look at them all in isolation, as you
Yeah,
said, United at home, pretty leaky defensively. Everton away, obviously a great fixture. Spurs at
yeah,
home in a always high scoring North London derby.
yeah.
It's not that bad, is it?
Definitely not, which is why he's such a tricky sell. Because then even after that, the 3 games you read out, the following
Yeah,
game after that is
and Bournemouth. Yeah,
Bournemouth away as
exactly.
well. So that's why is it the right move? But again, a bit like when I took out Rashford last week, after their fixtures are okay. After Arsenal away, okay, it's tough, but they're conceding, and then it's the likes of Brighton, Burnley, and Crystal Palace who are their fixtures aren't even bad there either. But it's a case of there just seems to be so many strong midfield options this week that yes, we've just sort of bigged up Martinelli's fixtures, but look at Madison's next 2 fixtures, they're great. Look at Sterling's next 4 or 5
Yeah,
fixtures, they're
absolutely.
great. So it is tricky, and it's always a risk taking any player out, really, especially someone like Martinelli. But I don't think I want to. It is hard to weigh up if it's the right decision. And like I said, it's not me backing him to blank 4 or 5 weeks in a row. It's a case of trying to pick a better option than him and improving my squad. Maybe it's a bit of a luxury transfer. Maybe the algorithms would suggest improving my bench players, or I don't know, maybe they're suggesting Watkins to Jackson. I don't know. But yeah, I feel like it's when Sterling and Madison are the 2 players that I'm targeting this week the most, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So therefore, if I did want to get them, I'd have to remove a midfielder. Do I want to remove Saka and Bruno, who are on penalties? And Bruno's underlying stats are really good as well. Do I want to remove Mbomo, again, cheap on penalties? Bournemouth at home, not really. Foden, 4 good fixtures in a row. So it's almost like, okay, if I have to remove someone, Martinelli's possibly the weakest out of my 5 midfielders right now, even though he's a great option in his own right as well. So yeah, it's a horrible one. It's
It's
much
not fun,
nicer when
is
you
it?
get
Yeah,
no, it's better when if when you transfer out someone who's got injured, it's just such
I
a
know.
nicer feeling because you know that
Yeah.
they can't come back and burn you. But when you're jumping between top quality assets, because essentially we're all built with Game Week 1 team with certain players in that in theory are all good FPL assets. So when you remove them, the likes of someone like Eze is probably being transferred out of people's teams this week potentially because he's blanked in a few. But again, he could jump into life at any moment and get a big haul. Some people took out Darwin Núñez last week, which was absolutely the correct decision, but he comes off the bench and scores 2. So yeah, it's a difficult one, but I think I will be brave and pull the trigger on that.
All right. So let me ask you right now.
Yeah, go on.
Sterling v Madison. Those are the names that you're weighing up. Recording
Yeah,
this on Wednesday morning. Sterling potentially could get some minutes tonight in the League Cup game, which could change
yeah,
things, of course. I'm kind of like you. I'm like I kind of hope somebody, no, not in a bad way, but picks up an
yeah.
injury or we get some sort of news
Makes it
just to make the
easier.
decision easier.
Yeah.
But if I had to ask you right now, what is your transfer going to be this week?
Earlier on in the game, a few days ago, I was probably 90% Sterling, 10% Madison sort of split. Now it's probably 60-40 in favour of Raheem still.
Okay. Why is that? Why is that coming closer?
It's coming close just looking back at the stats over the course of all 3 game weeks. Combined Sterling's stats over the 3 game weeks look fine, but the first 2 game weeks, the XG, the expected assist, which isn't the be all and end all. I want to make that clear. That isn't something that I put 100% weight behind. However, the stats weren't there in the first 2 weeks. Is it a case of Luton being that bad, allowing Chelsea plenty of chances, allowing Sterling to run riot? There's potentially a bit of that because, like I said, the stats weren't there those first 2 games, but that still hasn't put me off Sterling because, like I said, I'm still 60-40 in favour of Sterling. Madison wasn't that much of a consideration. I've always felt like Sterling had the better fixtures, but looking at it, the next 2 in particular, which you should weight the more current fixtures or the fixtures that come up sooner, heavier.
Yeah.
When you look at a combined fixture run of the next, say, 5 games, it's always better to concentrate on the next two. Yeah, weighting them more important the sooner they are. And yeah, Maddison's stats from all the games look really good. He's heavily involved in the attacking play for Spurs. Spurs are looking like a good attacking outfit. So yeah, it's made it a tricky decision. I'm kind of going to, and when you have a 50-50, it's very hard to call it right, because essentially what you're saying is these are two really strong assets to bring into your team. I'm almost, by even just considering both of them, I'm backing them both to score really well. If I can only bring one in, you've then got to try and figure out, okay, who's got the potential to score. They'll both score well, but who will score, a bit more than the other one, which is very hard to do. So I won't be beating myself up about it if it goes wrong. They're both great assets. There's that strong arguments to bring in both of them. And I've just got to try and pick one who I think is the best out of the two. But yeah, like I said, with these 50-50s, if you are considering two players, it's because they are two good assets normally.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, yeah, as much as you can deliberate throughout the week, ultimately, when you're looking at Maddison and Sterling, as you say, these are two good players. Yeah, of course, we know there's variance. There could be massive swings, but right now, it's very close for a reason. I don't think there's a clear, better pick out of those two. For me personally, I'm looking at bringing in 2 out of 3 of Maddison, Sterling, and Mbeumo. And yeah, in that sort of conversation with myself, I'm not entirely sure where I'm going to go. It's likely, as always, that one combination will do a lot better, but you can't necessarily fully predict that. It's not going to be, my fault necessarily if that doesn't come to fruition or I choose the wrong two. I think it's just they're all decent. What would you say then, out of the midfield in general now, if you're on a wild card, who would you be going for in that 5-man midfield? Because there are a few wild cards knocking about. Where would you go?
Yeah, we haven't discussed someone like Jarrod Bowen, but I still wouldn't go for him. Just to quickly talk about him, just
even
because
with the fixture.
their next fixture's good, but then after that, not very good. And I'm a little bit worried about West Ham getting these results with such little possession. Yes, it's working for them now, but is it sustainable? Maybe that's debatable. I just don't know. It makes me feel a little bit uneasy. Is all I'd say. And if the fixtures were stronger, then yeah, for sure. But because it's only one good fixture, a couple of tough ones, and then it's back to another decent one, isn't it? But yeah, I've got to look a little bit more further into the future than just that one game for me. If you've got him, he's an easy hold, of course. But yeah, on a wild card, 5 midfielders would probably be Sterling. In fact, I did a tweet from Hub's Twitter with a picture of the 5 midfielders I thought were the best.
Oh, did you really?
There we go. I did. So I'm trying to remember exactly who it was, but I think it was Sterling.
It might have changed. It could have changed in your own head. That's fine. Yeah. Okay, so sorry, start again. Sterling,
Foden.
Okay.
Bruno.
Yep.
Maddison, and I don't think I had Mbeumo in there. Try and find this graphic. I think it was Saka. Yeah. Okay. It's how when you do the stuff on the top of your head, I just literally completely forgot Saka existed for a second.
So Sterling, Foden, and Maddison in there. Yeah, that's a power midfield. Foden, I do feel like is kind of being forgotten.
Yeah.
With such a good fixture up next, he
exactly
out of your entire midfield here. I mean, let's have a look at the likes of Sterling as well. Yep, Sterling 5.3, Maddison 5.2. Foden has 5.9 predicted points this week. It's more, perhaps, than any other midfielder in the game this week.
I'm really happy about that, because obviously Foden was sort of a hot potato last week, if you like. He then gets benched and only plays 10 minutes, and people are going, Pep roulette, I'm not going to touch him. But realistically, he was sick. He wasn't fit enough to play 90 minutes, so he came off the bench and grabbed a lucky assist. But yeah, I'm fairly confident he'll start this week, and I'm now glad he is. People aren't targeting him, because Sterling, kind of rightly so. If I didn't have Foden in, I probably would have bumped up the priority list to someone like Sterling now after that performance, or someone like Maddison, who has both goals and assists so far this season. Obviously, his first goal was against Bournemouth, wasn't it? So those two would probably be higher up my list if I didn't have Foden. But as I've got him, I'm really happy to have him. I think he'll come in and do well. Now, I think Foden could be relatively short term. Obviously, at the time I brought him in, they hadn't made any new signings. They're looking at the Wolves player.
Yeah, Mateus Nunes.
Yes. And obviously Doku as well. So there's now that a little bit more central midfield attack or wing threat to maybe Foden's minutes that are going to start to eke in. So maybe sort of game week 9 time, maybe I'll be on a wild card by then. Maybe Foden won't make that. But yeah, for the next, I think it's still 4 good fixtures for Foden until he plays Arsenal.
Yeah.
And even then, it isn't necessarily having a bad thing having a City attacker against Arsenal in that game anyway.
Exactly. That's the thing. Like, City turn it on against good teams a lot of the time, and players like De Bruyne historically have done so well against Arsenal. So I don't think any
Yeah,
fixture's really that bad for Man City, really.
exactly. So yes, I'm happy to have Foden, and I'm happy everyone is debating between even yourself. The three you just
Yeah,
mentioned
exactly. Yeah,
was
yeah,
Mbomo, Madison, and Sterling. So, and
yeah.
again, they're three amazing. If you haven't got those three, yeah, you are probably picking two out of those three. So Foden is it's a struggle for Foden to get a look in now. And someone like Bruno was, things change. I keep saying this to everyone, things change so quickly in FPL. People wanted to get rid of Bruno after a couple of blanks. He's now got amazing stats, and he's obviously backed that up with a penalty goal and an assist. Now people want to keep him. So yeah, things can change quickly. And again, I wasn't seriously considering that. Maybe I'm guilty of point chasing myself or being swayed too much by the Luton game. But I think we'd said on our videos, hadn't we, Jack, about how impressed we were with Sterling against West Ham.
I was looking great.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think I said it somewhere that as good as Sterling's looking, I just couldn't find a way to squeeze him into my midfield. This was last week before that Luton game.
Oh.
Obviously, I was incorrect in that statement. Oh no, not incorrect. What am I trying to get at?
Not
Yeah,
yet.
I
You
feel
haven't you
like
haven't transferred him in yet, so it still holds true.
he still hasn't made it in. But yeah, I think I'm obviously considering him more
Yeah,
now. He
of
has
course.
got that. If he blanks against Luton, people are rightly not considering him, but he has now brought that good football form, I'd say, because yeah, against West Ham he was amazing without getting the FPL returns. He had good football form. He's now turned that into good FPL form. So everything's looking up for Raheem now.
That's true.
Um,
That is true. Yeah.
and yeah, I think because with what I'm trying to guess at is I did like Foden as a pick last week, but I didn't because I wanted Foden more than him. I was never that close to getting him, even though I acknowledged that he was a good pick, of course, ahead of the Luton game.
I think that's a good thing about
Yeah,
Foden. Even though you got unlucky last week, and perhaps Foden owners lost some points, some bench points that would have come in. We saw a lot of people getting rewarded. Gabriel owners perhaps that have good first benches, the likes of
yeah,
Udogi and Gusto, and you didn't get that with the auto sub. But because he was ill, it means I think that the people like me aren't even really looking at him at all. Not just because of
yeah.
future rotation. Maybe there's just a little bit of recency bias there. So yeah, Foden definitely going under the radar. Now, two more players that I just want to briefly talk about in your team that I think are not issues, but perhaps you may be looking to change down the line.
Yeah.
Are Estupinian, who
Yeah.
Brighton haven't kept a clean sheet all season. There are other defenders doing well in that kind of price bracket around the 4-5 to 5-ish sort of area.
Yeah.
The likes of Matty Cash, who I think you want to speak about here in a second, and then also Pickford. I know we don't really like making goalkeeper transfers, but perhaps just a word on him as well and whether that is any sort of consideration.
Yeah, I would like to talk about Pickford because it is a bit like there are lots of examples of if you'd have got fed up with Pickford after week one and just changed to Onana, in week two and week three, Onana's blanked. Like you said, Brighton, a team who came sixth in the league last year, no clean sheets so far. Even Allison, who costs a million more, no clean sheets yet. I don't think there's not many clean sheets knocking around at the minute. The Pickford Turner rotation has actually been really unfortunate. They've only faced 7 shots on target because obviously I'm not counting game week 2 for Pickford because I'm rotating in the easier fixtures. But that rotation has only conceded, I think it was 7 shots on target in those 3 games, conceding
Wow.
3 goals. So if you're not conceding shots on target regularly, the chance of a clean sheet are obviously higher. So I'm sticking with the rotation. It's Sheffield United away for Pickford this week. Now, I'm not saying if I was on a wild card, I'd go for someone like Flecken, who has good fixtures and he's getting some save points and some bonus. But I don't think I want to make the transfer there because even if you've got, say, a free transfer to use, it will almost certainly lead to you making an outfield change at some point, which will then cost you a -4 for an outfielder. And then you'll kind of just fight to yourself and be like, oh, I'm -4ing in Sterling, who scored 2 anyway. But realistically, if you make a goalkeeper change now, like I said, it will have that knock-on effect. So if I was on a wild card, I'd go Flecken. But as I'm not, I'm sticking by that rotation and playing them in the easier fixtures. So it will be Sheffield United away for Pickford this week, and then it will be Burnley at home in week 5 for Turner. And yeah, I'm hoping the luck turns a little bit. Like I say, I don't back Everton or Forest greatly for defensive returns. It's more about the quality of opposition they're against. I do back them to keep the score low in easier fixtures,
Yeah.
which they've done so far.
It's just a bit unlucky, isn't it? Yeah. But the thing is,
It
it's a weird
is.
one. It's like not even making saves. How are you going to
Yeah.
haul if you're not making saves? But that's an
Yeah.
upturn in the defense because they're conceding, as you said,
Yeah.
fewer shots on goal. But for Pickford, it's actually having an adverse effect.
Yeah. It's really frustrating, especially as it wasn't until it was 0-0 until like the 88th minute, and it was no shots on target
Oh,
against Pickford
tough.
until that. But you could argue from the other side that the goal they did score was a really big opportunity that they're never really going to miss. So
Same with the Fulham one, I would say. It
yes,
was like
yeah,
you wouldn't miss that sort of chance, but
yes,
then they'd had no
exactly,
chances leading up to that.
yeah,
So it's you
e-
can't say that it was
exactly that.
unlucky to lose the clean, but having
Yeah,
faced
from the
no shots
quality of
before that,
chance.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly that. So I'm backing it based on the quality of the opposition. Like I said,
yeah,
if I was on a wild card, I think Flecken's a better choice for save points and for potential clean sheets as well in a strong fixture in there. But yeah, I don't want to make a transfer which will cost me a -4. Like I said, you can feel safer about him. Be like, oh, I'm just going to go for Allison and spend 1 million more, but he hasn't kept any cleans. Onana, if you watch Game Week 1, he was obviously very lucky to get that clean sheet. If you'd have moved him in after Game Week 1, you'd have got 0 points against, 2 points against Spurs, I think it was, and then I think 0 points
yeah,
against Forest at home. So, and like I said, if you'd have moved to say the Brighton keeper, he ends up losing his place, and Jason Steele lost his place at the weekend and hasn't kept any clean sheets. Someone like Edison would have been a safe move for clean sheets over this run, but you're then spending 1 million more and using a transfer. So yeah, I'm not team Pickford, and I'm not trying to sing his praises too much, but equally, there's been an almost over the top negativity towards him based on the alternatives at that price point not doing an awful lot. So like, and again, people will say, well, why not move to Sanchez from Chelsea? It blocks a Chelsea slot when I
yeah.
might want
I don't like that.
Chilwell, Sterling, and Jackson.
Yeah,
So yeah, there's a lot of considerations, and when you consider it all, like I said, Pickford to Flecken could be a good move, but do I want to do that when, like I said, it will cost me -4 at some point in another area of my team?
yeah,
So I'm not willing to do that.
no.
Like I said, and with that rotation looking strong all the way up until Game Week 8 or 9 for Pickford/Turner, I'm confident that one of those boys will pull off a clean sheet or two in the easier
Yeah,
fixtures.
it's fine. It's just you've not been rewarded so far. I mean,
Yeah,
not rewarded, but you've not had the luck so far. Whereas, yeah, I mean, you wouldn't transfer someone out that's, Sheffield United away. It's a
yeah,
very good chance for a clean sheet. We'll see what happens, but it looks good. Yeah, on Chelsea, I think it's very important. And I tweeted about this ages ago, pretty much after the first game week where we looked good. I said, getting the right three Chelsea is going to be so important because you don't want to
yeah,
lock yourself out of going for someone that comes into form. I actually thought it was better waiting to see who the three look to be. Now you've only got
yeah,
one. We're going to
yeah.
talk about Estupinian here. You mentioned Gusto already. Now,
Mm.
yeah, I would agree with you. It's too risky going for him, not just because James is coming back, but it also locks you out of the likes of Sterling and then Jackson if you wanted to go there
Yeah,
down the line. So Estupinian replacement, not necessarily this week, but going forward, just looking at his fixtures, they are
yeah.
terrible. What do we think?
Yeah, so for me, with Estupinian being such an attacking asset, I'll be keeping him for this week. Newcastle at home, not backing a clean sheet, particularly. It could happen, of course, but yeah, I'll keep him for this game. Then you've got Man United away. So what I'm thinking is, if nothing goes wrong with my 11, once I've done this potentially Martinelli to Sterling move, then not this week, but the next week when Estupinian's away at United, I could look to bench Estupinian in that one, and I'll transfer out Baldock, who might be going to Athens or something. Transfer out Baldock for the likes of either Udogi, Matty Cash, a 4.5 million player, but a solid player to be rotatable with Estupinian. I'd look into the rotation a bit more because obviously Bournemouth at home for Estupinian in about 3 game weeks time that I'd look to play him in
Yeah,
that one. So yeah, I'd get a 4.5 million defender who could rotate well with Estupinian and then just bench him in those other ones. So
oh,
I'm
that's
not in a
good.
rush to transfer out Estupinian. I think I can cherry pick what games I use him in. If I get, let's say, Estupinian was my bench defender and he has to come in, then even in a tough fixture, then okay, so be it. Estupinian comes off my bench. It's a tough fixture away at Old Trafford, but who knows? He could easily get an attacking return in that one.
Yeah, it's
So
true.
yeah, that's how I'd look at it. Bulldog was obviously only there to be a cheap bench player anyway. My bench, I haven't had to use my bench, but my bench is pretty thin. So I just want to talk about my bench very quickly. Bulldog might be after Athens. I didn't even know this until I think yesterday when I looked. Bulldog's got 9 caps for Greece. I don't know how I missed that.
Yeah,
Um,
it's one of those that you don't know it
yeah,
until you like. You would never go, oh yeah, he's Greek. It's just like yeah, but
yeah.
once you know it, it's something you remember.
I had no idea. Must have missed that news whenever he got those 9 caps over the last couple of years. But that's crazy. So yeah, the move to Greece maybe makes a lot of sense for him, and maybe that will happen. I don't know. Especially Sheffield United seem to be selling off their assets anyway. So, and even if he doesn't move anywhere, I would like to improve my bench anyway. So yeah, this week Martinelli to Sterling and Madison. The following week, Baldock to the likes of Udogi, Matty Cash, whoever I decide at that point.
Yeah,
And then my bench is looking a lot stronger.
yeah,
It will either be that 4.5 million player who I bring in, or it will be a Stupinian in tough fixtures. Um, and then again, Mubama, like I was saying earlier, Mubama has to rot on my bench a bit. Like ideally, I would change out Pickford, but I'm not going to because I don't want to use a transfer in a non-powerful way. And it's the same with Mubama. Yes, he's not playing games. Yes, Archer's better, but is it worth a transfer? Not for me. I have no benching headaches at the minute. Mubama can sit third sub. Soon enough, I'll have one decent defender on bench, plus Gabore, who at least is looking pretty He looks pretty attacking against Chelsea, which is obviously a hard away game. He has decent fixtures now, Kabore. Now I'm not here to sing Kabore's praises or tell you to transfer him in or whatever, but I'm happy enough having him on my bench with West Ham home, Fulham away, Wolves at home, Everton away, and potentially a double game week in there as well somewhere. So I think Kabore is just a really solid 4.0 million second bench option for me now.
yeah.
So I'll have for the next 4 weeks. For the first 3 weeks, I had an awful bench. At least now it's looking a little bit rosier once I make the Bulldog change next week as well.
And you got cash in the bank anyway, but that will give you even more cash. And I guess yeah, we'll
Yeah,
see what transfer you are thinking of for Estupinian or any of your defense next week when we come
yeah,
onto prepping for game week 5. So yeah, team looks pretty strong. I mean, it's a higher game week rating than mine, that's for sure. Ruben Diaz just a nice one to have in there, but with one free transfer, let's finally now have a look at your AI recommended transfers for this week and see if they align with your current thinking. Okay, my friend, here we are. Now, I think actually this is the first recommendation that we've seen on this channel, which is a recommendation to bank your free transfer for this week. There we go.
okay.
I think
Thanks.
with a 95% gaming rating,
Yeah,
Fantasy Football Hub is thinking that your team looks really strong. You don't necessarily have to make a transfer this week. There is an alternative option, but first of all, I've got to ask you: have you thought about rolling the transfer?
yes and no. Ideally, I spoke a couple of weeks ago about wanting to have 2 free transfers going into the international break. Obviously, in between, for those who don't know, this is the last weekend of fixtures coming up, and then we've got an international break going into game week 5. So having 2 free transfers to deal with any sort of international break injuries, etc., is nice. But when there's 2 gifts like Madison, Sterling looking in the face, and like I keep saying, Martinelli isn't a bad option, but I feel like those 2 are better options. And I want to bring one of those in for Martinelli, then I don't think I will bank a transfer. It does make a lot of sense. It is possibly sensible. It is possible that Martinelli can keep pace with those boys, and maybe it is a quote unquote mistake to make the transfer. But yeah, I just feel like I will make it because those 2 are such promising assets
Yeah,
for the longer
no,
term.
I'm the same. I'm the same as that. It's got to be
Yeah,
done. I think has to be done. The
I
upside
think
is
so.
there. The upside is there.
Yes, the
However,
upside. That's absolutely true.
Martinelli is not being sold by the AI. Can you believe
Let
it?
me guess. I think the AO might be suggesting maybe because I've got money in the bank, taking out one of my defenders for a better defender and strengthening the squad that way.
Actually, I think
Um,
the defense is okay for this week. So I think that's one that will come down the line with your team. I mean, you know
okay.
it yourself. You've just talked about your transfers for next
Yeah.
week. It's actually
Is it?
Watkins for Jackson.
Yeah, that was going to be my next guess, I
Yeah.
suppose. Yeah.
I mean,
Does make
it is
sense.
quite a big difference this week. Later down the line, less of a difference. But if you look
Mm.
at these 2 games, kind of on paper, you would say that Jackson has a much stronger fixture. But you mentioned Liverpool without Van Dijk looking pretty leaky anyway. Could be points for Watkins there.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. And then at least it is Crystal Palace at home the following week for Watkins. Not the Crystal Palace a walkover, but still a nice fixture. Villa as a team are scoring plenty of goals. Like I said, Watkins isn't as involved in the goals as I'd like. I think it was 4 against Everton, and he only obviously got the assist. 3 against Burnley, again, only got the assist. So I do need and want more from him. And if I had Sterling, let's say I already had Sterling in place of Martinelli in this current squad, then yeah, I might use my free transfer this week on Watkins to Jackson. But because I'm so set on getting one of those midfielders in,
Yeah.
I don't think I want to do Watkins to Jackson for a -4, even though that -4 could actually be, it could work out in this first week. I just don't
not
think
for a
I'll
hit.
do
Not
it.
for a hit. No.
No,
Surely
I
not.
don't think it's, no, I don't think it's worth it for a hit. If I do the move and then Watkins gets a late injury, is it then worth -4? Maybe. But yeah, even still, I'm not going out my way to make too many changes and make any hits when they're not absolutely
No.
necessary. So yes, I will, like I keep doing pretty much, I will ignore the AI and probably regret it come the end of
No,
the
that's
season
fair
because
enough. That is completely fair.
it's probably more clever than I am. But there we go. There we go.
I don't know. It probably rates the Liverpool defense a little bit higher than you do, which I think is fair enough. And
Maybe.
I agree with you.
Maybe.
I don't think they've been very good, although historically they've been very good. So there we go. Those are your AI recommended transfers. Well, AI recommended transfer actually is to roll, to bank your free transfer for this week. But yeah, there's the alternative option for you if you wanted. And guys, this is the final video that we're doing in which the offer that you can see on screen right now is still standing. 50% off Fantasy Football Hub by clicking the link below, and then you can have a look at your own personalized AI recommended transfers. But from next game week, as soon as the international break starts from September, that offer is gone. So it's the last chance. You're going to use this for the entirety of the season. You know, think when we get to the doubles and the blanks and you just have no idea what you want to do, and you can have a look at the AI recommended transfers that will give you some sort of a inclination as to what could be possible. Right then, Wes, that is going to do it for this one. Thank you very much, mate. If you want to check out Wes's final transfers confirmed, obviously Sterling was 90%, dropping down to 60%. Who knows, with an injury in the game tonight, it could be 0%. Then check out Wes's final team reveal on Fantasy Football Hub. Link to that is also down in the description. Wes, good luck next game week. Good luck to everyone else watching right now. And yeah, we will see you all after the international break, ready for Game Week 5.